Hello, everyone. Loremaster of Sotek here, and this is it. This is the last video in my Kislev proposal series of ideas that I kind of had for what we could do to make Kislev exciting, to revamp the faction and everything it's capable of, and try and make a good experience out of the tools that we have. I will note that with these videos, I really try to recycle as much as possible, as opposed to just proposing crazy new things all over the place. But I'm pretty happy overall with the list I ended up with. And we are now in part 5. So let's go ahead and wrap things up with Boris Ursus, a little bit about the tech tree and some other Ostankya stuff. And yeah, just a reminder that I will do one more video in this playlist, in this little set, which is going to be that I'm just going to go through all 5 of the prior videos, and I'm just going to look at like the top bit of comments to see what people are saying, what their thoughts are. Obviously, I have been going through and reading some of them and responding to some of them, but I'd like to kind of do a video looking at all those and addressing them, things like that. So if you haven't, make sure to go through those, leave a comment, update, or whatever the hell, like, whatever they call it, the ones that you think are the most interesting, because I'll kind of be looking for that, and we'll go from there. So in any event, let's get into it. All right, so last time we talked about Kostaltyn and Kater and all that stuff, and now we're on to the beloved Red Tsar himself, Boris Ursus. Currently, Boris is quite tacked on to Kostaltyn and Katerin's goofball antics instead of having his own identity. So the big thing for him is I would propose removing him from the supporter race and all of that to craft something new. While Radiboka did found the Great Orthodoxy in the past, by the time of Total War, he is sort of passed on from the politics of Kislev and now stands as the living embodiment of Ursun's will. The first high priest of the bear god in centuries, Boris quite literally returned from death in this timeline to take the fight to chaos. Rather than allowing his homeland to be the frozen shield chaos will crash upon, he is the spear thrust into the heart of the eternal enemy. So how can we represent this in game and give him the unique flair of the bear god's wrath unleashed? The first thing I think we should do is get rid of the follower race system, as I mentioned earlier. Instead, introduce a new mechanic called something like the Power of Ursun, or Ursun's Wrath, or Fury of the Bear God, etc., to replace it. There are a couple ways I could see this manifesting. It could be a meter along the bottom of the Motherland display where the follower race meters used to be, that fills up as Boris wages war against the followers of Chaos. Perhaps whenever it's filled up, he can click a button to unleash the Bear God's fury, similar to how the Celestial Dragon Emperor's wrath can be unleashed on the Wuxing Compass system. When unleashed, it could deal a significant amount of damage to all enemies in Boris's territory, as if an Uber Assault Units action had just been taken against all of them. Or what if the meter provided buffs as the player filled it up, requiring them to keep up the aggression against chaos in order to maintain buffs? At every 20 to 25%, the meter could provide buffs such as better stats, an army ability to summon feral units of feral ice bears, as I should say, improved buffs to defensive settlement battles, and granting elemental bear units maybe a Mortis engine type effect that'll damage enemies within 30 meters of them while they're in close combat, due to Ursun's icy fury pulsing through them. Just some ideas being thrown out here. I would also like to see Radiboka's Invocation of Ursun be an upgraded version. So, just a more powerful at the baseline, even before you get the tech to increase it further, since he is the bear god's favorite. So maybe the bonuses he gets are doubled, or the army ability is a more powerful version with additional effects. Or perhaps he gets additional buffs when he's fighting chaos factions specifically, Maybe he could get some special buffs to just bear units. All right. From there, we do have a few other minor things that I'd like to discuss as well. First up is the technology tree for Kislev. Overall, I feel like Kislev has a fairly decent one, though it definitely could use a few tweaks. The biggest thing I really would like to see, if we're not doing a full overhaul, would be to at least make the Spirit of X techs, for like the Spirit of Erengrad, the Spirit of Kislev, the Spirit of Prague. Those should include granting permanent line of sight over those cities, and should grant some diplomacy buffs with Kislevite factions. This would allow any Kislevite faction, no matter how far away, to reliably acquire diplomatic contact with the motherland reasonably fast and really, really help boost them along to Confederation as quickly as possible. Carrying on, Kislev gets access to quite a few diplomacy buffs through their legendary characters and several other methods, which results in them being actually pretty good at Confederation. I've never personally struggled at confederating all of the living Kislevite factions in my campaigns, but a part of me almost feels like there should still be some additional mechanic. Like if the player takes control of a Kislevite city, maybe there's a certain building they can construct to force confederate other factions. So what if in the Kislev itself, like Kislev City, what if they added a tier 5 version of the Boca Palace or the Temple of Ursun, that if you complete it, makes it where the player's attempt to confederate other Kislevite factions auto succeeds, though it would still lock you behind the normal cooldown period and penalties that come with confederation. So, you're only able to confederate, I think, like once every 5 turns or whatever it is. I think that would be a neat way to handle it. Finally, let's talk a bit about Mother Ostankya. I'll be honest, I wouldn't change anything dramatic about her, but there is something I would do to resolve her large distance from home. We all know that she could teleport herself to a magical forest region using one of her big hexes. But the issue is that the closest magical forest is the Griffinwood and Laurelorn forest, which aren't particularly close. So I would recommend we add a new magical forest province right next to where Golgbag Maneater starts his campaign. That big old chunk of land on the northeastern edge of the Middle Mountains. This should be made into a new province called the Forest of Shadows, with its one settlement, the Forest of Shadows, as Wood Elf forests tend to repeat the name for the province and settlement. Anyway, this forest would kill 2 birds with 1 stone. First of all, it would give Mother Ostankya a new forest to teleport to that would immediately allow her to make contact with Kislev, as she'd be within spitting distance of Erengrad. It would also grant the Wood Elves a new forest that could be their Kislevite one, as the Kislevites are the only Order faction in the game they can't improve or destroy relations with through their forest events. They have a magical forest event, because each magical forest has its own unique event, and the Wood Elves currently have events for Dark Elves, Greenskins, Vampire Counts, the Empire, Bretonia, Grand Cathay, Lizardmen, High Elves, Ogre Kingdoms, and Tomb Kings, if memory serves. This would also allow the Wood Elves to have a forest that focuses on the tense relationship with the Hag Witches and their malicious spirits. So giving the Wood Elves, when they get their little dilemma event about do they try and build a favorable relationship with the Kislevites, or do they build a negative relationship with them, it could center around how the Hag Witches are doing things within the forest that the Wood Elves might not necessarily agree with. I will admit that I would think it would be good to stick a Vampire Count faction in this forest for now to represent Melchior or Zacharias the Ever-Living, who are kind of the most powerful forces within the Forest of Shadows, until we can hopefully get in there with a playable faction. Come on, Zacharias, maybe one day. This may require Golfag to move later, but since for now it would just be another AI faction that he could contract with, I think he'd be fine staying where he is, even if we did add that forest province with some new Vampire Count Necrarch coded character, and it would give the vampire counts like Vlad von Karstein another ally in the area, because we could really use some more vampires in the Eastern Empire, in my opinion. That is the last of my suggestions for Kislev, finally finished. We wandered around quite a few topics, but I feel like if all of these could be addressed and at least inspire some big changes, we'd be looking at a pretty sexy Kislevite faction. There's a part of me that would love to see Kislev return to having only minor settlements in the Oblast, with the only major settlements in that area being their gigantic cities, as that was a very uniquely flavorful system that also gave Kislev some pretty big advantages at pushing out enemies that were trying to conquer territory. But I do suspect that this was pretty unpopular with most of the player base, and that the majority of players prefer the current system where there are actual major settlements in each of the Oblast regions. So I'm not going to recommend that as a change, but simply say that it's something that I do think should be kind of looked at and considered a bit. Please do be sure to let me know what you think of all the changes I've recommended over the last few videos. Though for this video, let's focus more on this one specifically in the comment section. Originally, I was going to make it one big fat video like normal, but then just decided I wanted to try something a little different here, especially because I was really looking for specific feedback on all of it. I figured it would be better to do it as like a series of broken down videos as opposed to just an hour and a half plus just dumped. But we'll see what y'all think about it. I am looking at feedback as far as people saying if they liked it or not, so please do let me know. I think most of the comments I've seen are actually people preferring just the long video with just like timestamps, but please be sure to let me know your opinion. In any event, there's still much to be done, but I have faith that Creative Assembly can make a genuinely fun and thrilling experience for all of the Kislevite factions if they really get in there with some elbow grease. That's it for the moment. I'll be back very soon to discuss the next faction recommendation for the Slaanesh DLC, and then after that, we should maybe be off to discuss some Tzeentch factions, I think. Do be sure to leave some feedback of your own ideas for me down below, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.